Welcome to Mission to Money, building a predictable revenue with 3 fundraising systems. I'm going to be your host today, Kyle King. I am going to be your host, Kyle King, and I'm excited. I am really, really excited for this conversation that we're going to have today. We're waiting on our co-host, my man Dan, to hop on, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun today. And if you have any questions throughout the conversation, please ask us. And I am just going to stream live on how to build. Here we go. I'm streaming live on LinkedIn. We're streaming live on Facebook as well as on the YouTube platform. So again, welcome to Mission to Money, building a predictable revenue stream with 3 fundraising systems. You know, I am one that believes in creating systems that are duplicatable but not customizable. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today throughout this whole conversation is how can we begin to scale up our fundraising efforts. I have the privilege of talking to nonprofit organizations, executive directors, founders, very often. And one of the challenges that I often find is that we're focusing on money. We're focusing on all of these different things. We're focusing on donors and major gifts and fundraising, but we miss the fundamental components that lead major organizations to being able to have the capacity, have the bandwidth, and even have the team to be able to grow their initiative. So I believe that it's going to be important throughout this whole conversation that you take notes, that you ask whatever questions that you may have throughout this whole conversation, and that you implement the various steps throughout this whole presentation that we're going to be able to walk you through so that you can have exactly what you need to be able to scale up your fundraising efforts. So I'm just pulling something up on my end over here. I have the slides, all of the slides. So I want to be sure that I am on time so that we can be able to maximize this time. So where are you from? I'd love to see where we are from. Comment wherever you are on the YouTube, the Facebook, or the LinkedIn platform. Comment in the comment section where you are from, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Vegas, whether it's out of the country. I want to see where our people are calling in from, where you're watching from. I find it very important to be able to build this community. So we have Chicago on here, and I know we have some other people from some other places. So super excited to have this conversation with you. As a former educator, I am one that is very, very practical, but I want to be able to leave you with actual tangible things. So this conversation, this webinar is not going to be a whole bunch of philosophy, a whole bunch of selling, a whole bunch of theory. This is going to be actually from proven strategies that have worked for myself in my organization that I run, the Culture Lab, but then has also helped us scale up efforts for other organizations that we've been able to support that have helped us raise $40+ million over the last few years. Okay. All right. So the reality of it is that predictability comes from managing the journey. Predictability comes from managing the journey, not improving or improvising the ask. Okay. Predictability, and I mean how, like, building predictable revenue models comes from managing the journey. And we're going to talk today about what that journey looks like, but not just improvising the ask. And when you get in front of a donor, when you get in front of your key target or that key customer, it's not one of those times. That's not the time to just start improvising. We're going to teach you how to build a scalable system, a repeatable system, a referable system, so that whether it's just you on your team, or if you have a team of philanthropic givers or major gifts officers, or however big your team is, you can take the model that we're going to be sharing today and implement it within your organization. And we can almost guarantee that you'll start seeing results within 30 to 60 to 90 days. All right. So predictability comes from managing this journey. Now, Kyle, what is this journey that you're discussing? What is this journey that you're even talking about? And anybody that's coming on, I want you to be able to talk about where you're from, post where you're from, and then also post questions throughout this conversation because I want this to be as specific and valuable individually for you. So whatever questions throughout this journey that you have, please comment them on whatever platform you are watching from. Now, when I talk about this journey, I talk about the fundraising journey. Now, the fundraising journey is similar to relationships and relationships that we build with people, intimate relationships. But in a nutshell, I call it the journey. And what we call it here at the Culture Lab is the journey from turning stranger to champion. Somebody that is unaware, that is completely unaware that you exist, that your organization exists, unaware of your mission, unaware with your impact, unaware with your efforts. And then at the end of that journey, somebody that is advocating for you, influencing for you, referring you, and doing all of these things to be able to grow, expand, and duplicate the mission that you are developing and leading. Now, let's spend some time on this specific slide. Now, I posted this slide, oh man, maybe 2 months ago on LinkedIn, got some great traction. A lot of questions were asked, but I want to be able to walk through what each stage looks like in real time. Now, stage one is awareness. I discover, let's say I am a donor. I am unaware of who you are, and I'm going to walk through what this would look like for me as your ideal donor. I am now discovering your mission. I am aware that you exist, okay? I'm aware that you exist. Now, as we grow just a little bit, now I see why you matter. I see why your cause matters. I am able to now identify my problems and connect it with my purpose in regards to giving and how you're out here in the community solving these problems potentially at scale, and how I want to be a part potentially of that journey. And through you continuously posting, you continuously engaging, now I believe in your leadership. I believe potentially in your story. I believe because you have been consistent. And now I have some confidence. And then that leads me to stage 4. I now feel confident in engaging with you. I feel confident in building this relationship, asking you, or you asking me, or you feel me feeling comfortable with you asking me for coffee, or us connecting, or you inviting me to your event, and some type of interaction and being able to develop this relationship. Okay. And now we get to stage 5. Now I give for the first time. Now, when I say give, I want to be able to debunk this myth right here. When I say give, I don't just mean give money. Okay. This may mean me giving my time. This may be giving my treasure. Yes. This may be giving my talent. This may be giving my ability to work on your team or as a board seat. This is me giving in a low friction, clear impact way. Okay. This is inviting me to a community partner open house, and I actually show up and I give feedback. This is me filling out potentially a survey. This is me volunteering at your event. This is me showing up to your mixer. This is what this potentially looks like for me. Okay. And then as I grow to stage 6, stewardship, now I'm feeling appreciated. I feel appreciated. And now I'm grateful, and I want some updates. Now, this is where you're giving them updates. This is where you're engaging with them on a high level. This is where you're following up. These are those touch points on a monthly or a quarterly basis. Here's a quick hack. This is those notes, those handwritten cards in the note that you're sharing with these individuals. This is where that relationship goes up just a little bit deeper. All right. And then that grows to stage 7. That grows to stage 7. And now we have some expansion. All right. Now we have some expansion. Now I'm deepening my involvement. I'm showing up to events. I potentially make a potential larger gift, stronger activism, stronger role within your organization. I want to be a part of this. And now I'm potentially inviting other people from my network or from my affinity circle or from my sphere of influence to be exposed to the great work that your organization is doing. And then that leads us to stage 8. That leads us to stage 8. And what we call this is the champion phase. This is the champion stage. Now I'm recommending, I'm referring, I'm advocating for your mission. I'm potentially a board member, or if not a board member, I'm showing up continuously to all of your events. I'm showcasing or sharing this on my platform or in my email. I'm potentially a monthly or a consistent giver. I've activated different events or leverage my network so that we can be able to grow not just your mission, but our mission. This is the stages. This is the journey. So when I talk about in the second slide that predictability comes from managing this journey, not from just improvising on the ask. Now, when you think about this journey, and I see that people are on here from all over, what do you think is your most challenging stage that you are in your journey right now? Is it stage 1, awareness? Is it stage 2, relevance? Is it stage 3, trust? Is it stage 4, engagement? Is it stage 5, activation? Is it stage 6, stewardship? Is it stage 7, expansion? Or is it stage 8? Where are you seeing your most challenges arise? And I want you to post them in the comment section below, because what I believe is that the transformation that I want to be able to ensure, that we want to be able to ensure that you receive here on this webinar requires your participation. So I want to be sure that you receive that transformation, but what I'm needing from you is participation for the next 90 minutes or a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, excuse me. And I want to be sure that I'm answering your questions, that you're leaving with tangible deliverables, and that you're actually able to implement these things at scale so that you can implement these things, grow your impact, and achieve higher income. All right, let's get to it. All right. When I think about the 3 predictable revenue systems, because this is the major takeaway today. Number 1 is our clarity system. Number 2 is our proof system. And number 3 is our partnership system. And I want you to put clarity. If we're ready to be able to improve and grow and scale our nonprofit efforts, if we're ready to scale our impact, if we're ready to scale our income, if we're ready to empower our communities, if we're ready to do more, then I want you to put clarity in the comment section. I want you to put clarity in the chat section, just the word clarity, and it's on the screen for those of us who are like, typing. I'm trying to take notes. I'm trying to engage with this. I'm trying to do work and all of these different things. I want you to take 1 second and put clarity in the chat for me. Continue to engage throughout this whole conversation, and I can guarantee that you're going to be able to implement the steps that we share today, and they're going to transform not only your lives, but your organization. All right? Not only your lives, but your organization, but it requires your participation. So it's clarity system. We have a proof system, and then we have a partnership system. And throughout this next few slides, we're going to talk about what this means every single step of the way. Like, what is a clarity system, Kyle? Like, what is a proof system? And then what is a partnership system? And based upon our exclusive framework that we have here at the Culture Lab, we've taken our 4-step phases and we've broken it down into these 3 systems in hundreds of nonprofits or in schools that we've worked with across the country or in the US. We wanted to be able to ensure that by the end of this conversation, you're able to actually implement these 3 systems and be able to take it to the next level. All right, y'all ready? Put I'm ready. Put I'm ready in the comment section if we are ready. Put I'm ready in the comment section if you are ready for this webinar, for this presentation. And like I shared with you all earlier, I am a practical, and I want to leave you with tangible skills. So I'm not going to have a lot of theory. I'm not going to have a lot of fluff sides. I'm going to ensure that you're engaged. I'm going to ensure that you have all of the information that you need so that you can be able to implement these steps, so that you can be able to have tangible results. But it requires, again, your participation. All right, let's get it. What's today's objective? Today's objective is by the end of the session, I'm guaranteeing 3 things. Our promise is 3 things. Number 1, we want to diagnose what's breaking your fundraising right now. We want to diagnose it. And a few questions that we received in the registrations. 1 was how to build the right team. 2 is how to build from the ground up. And then 3, and just a general understanding on what this fundraising journey looks like. I'm a new nonprofit is what they put. All right. So we want to be sure that we're answering those questions, but in answering those questions, we want to diagnose what's breaking your fundraising right now. Number 3, we shared a little bit about what that system looks like, but we want to build your 3-system predictable revenue plan. Our clarity, okay, our proof, and our partnership. Our clarity, our proof, and our partnership. Clarity, proof, partnership. And then by the end of this presentation, I want you to leave with something. I want you to leave with the next 7-day action, so it's truly not theory. And I'm going to say this on the front end. There will be an ask. There will be an ask. I want to be able to ensure that we've prepped you for that. So at the end of the slides, after we get through all of the information, I'm going to invite you to apply for our Growth Alliance cohort, our first cohort is this week, January 15th. So I'm super, super excited. We're only taking 12 nonprofit organizations. We currently have a wait list, and I would love for you to be able to apply to be a part of implementing these the next 12 weeks of this year, to be able to implement these 3 systems, these 4 phases that we're going to be sharing with you today. All right. Again, if you're ready to lock in, if you're ready for the information, if you're like, Kyle, just get to it. I am so ready. Just put I am ready in the comment section. Put I am ready in the comment section. Let's go. All right. Let's do it. Now, who am I? My name is Kyle King. My name is Kyle King, and I switch up this picture all the time, but I wanted to have a fun picture because I'm on a journey this year. I am on a journey this year to accomplish 12 races and competitions, finish my first 5Ks of the year. So that's been phenomenal. This weekend, the family and I were doing a 10K. They don't know it yet. But a few things about me, because I think a lot of times we lead with all of these professional background and impact, but just a few things about me. Number one, I ran 50 miles in 11 hours at the U.S. National Whitewater Center last November. As a kid, I appeared in the Oscar Mayer Wiener commercial. Yes, singing the famous jingle. Now, I don't know if this is actually true or not, because, I've asked my parents about this, and I've gotten multiple stories. So we're just sticking with it. All right, we're sticking with it. I've owned it this long in my life, so we're just sticking with it. And then next webinar that you come on with the Culture Lab, I promise I'll have the answer for you. Number 3, this is a real one. This is one that I actually, in fact, have proof for. I can recite the entire movie Troy, from beginning to end. Seriously, I really can. The one with Brad Pitt, like the newer one, I can actually, in fact, recite the whole movie. Number 4, at age 12, I built my first computer right in my parents' kitchen. Looking back on that, I felt like I was ahead of the curve, because a lot of the apps and funnels and different things that we have with AI now require a lot less brain power. But I really feel like in another life, I would have probably been an engineer or a software developer. And then number 5, I'm a proud dad to a 2-year-old daughter, Kylie, my world, and a 10-year-old son, Carter, literally my right hand. Now, as we wait for my man Dan to come on, he was finishing up some meetings, and he'll be blessing us with his presence. I want to just share who he is. Number 1, he is a former UNC Charlotte track and field athlete, where he still holds the javelin school record. Number 2, at his best, he is helping people clearly think and move forward. Number 3, he is currently a professor of nonprofit management at Drexel University. He has a deep love for this Old House TV show. When we were developing these slides, I looked up the Old House, and I had no idea what this is. I'm so used to like HGTV shows, and it has 47 seasons. So shout out to them for just sticking through it. He's a devoted husband and a proud dad of a 2-year-old son, and they are literally awesome human beings. And outside of that, since I can actually talk about him because he's not on here yet, he is a phenomenal human being. He leads with integrity. And he's just somebody that you want to know. He is a leader that you would want to embody, model, mirror, and he's somebody that I love, that I've learned so much from, and that's the word, and I'm sticking to it. Let's get to it. All right. Now, what does impact look like? That's who we are as people, because I feel like it's important to not just lead with titles, but to lead with heart. We help mission-driven leaders build predictable revenue systems. That's it. We help you identify how to go get more money and how to identify where it is, period. Now, I've raised $40 million over 3 years for schools, nonprofits nationwide, former school board member, teacher, leader, founder, author of 7 books. Now, I've translated a lot of that leadership and culture into repeatable organizational results for individuals like you showing up today. My man, Dan, he has 10 plus years in advancement across 5 institution types, hands-on operations, relationship fundraising experiences. He's had, I believe, over 6,000 donor conversations and meetings. He is literally the GOAT. He has seen every single stage and phase of fundraising campaign cycles, and he's built repeatable, duplicatable systems that keep fundraising consistent. He is somebody that I lean on, and he's definitely somebody that's going to be able to deliver so much value once he comes on today. But before he comes on, let's get to it. Now, this may sound like you. This may sound like you. Fundraising, when unpredictable, means one of these things are broken. Now, some of us on this webinar probably have a few of these things broken. But what I want you to do, I want you to think through one of these, and I want you to pick your one bottleneck and write it down. And once you have it written down, can you comment it for me? I want you to comment it for me. I want you to actually put it in the chat. I want you to actually type it out and put it in the chat section. But what is it for you? Is it unclear problem? Is it vague audience? Is it no clear transformation? Is it weak or messy story? Is it undocumented results? Is it no donor network? And it's like, I don't know where to go get these people. Is it no internal systems that are built? Is it an unclear ask? And I want you to take a second and I want you to write down, what is the bottleneck? What is the bottleneck and what is the challenge? What is the gap that you're currently experiencing inside your organization that is hindering your ability to be able to move forward, hindering your ability to be able to make transformative results and create transformative change that can not just help you, like we're going to continue to talk about today, but it's going to help drive your mission forward and be able to create ripples of success and ripples of impact. I want to hear from you, though. I want to hear from you. I want you to put it in the comment section. I want you to put it in the comment section. What is your one bottleneck? What is your one bottleneck? And for those of you who are registered, actually registered, undocumented results and no donor network, I appreciate you saying that. And we're going to talk about what that looks like, because if you more clearly communicate your results, and I'm going to put it on the screen for us, then I can guarantee then that will help you develop that donor network that you're going to need to engage with to be able to drive change forward. But we're going to continue to engage. We're going to go a little bit deeper. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go a little bit deeper. The one belief that I found in working with hundreds of organizations is that most leaders are literally one sentence away from burnout. Literally one sentence. So what I want you to do here is I want you to take some time and I want you to fill in the blanks. If I could just generate blank, we drive the change we want. I was having a conversation with the leader and I asked them this question and I was like, look, if you could just what is the number that you would need to generate so that you could drive change? And they said 250,000. I said, okay. Well, the next question that I followed up with is, well, if you generated what would you need to be okay? What would you need to be okay? So if I generated blank, we'd finally be okay. I want you to put it down. If I could just get blank, we'd be in a great position. We'd be in a great position. What does that look like for you? What does that look like? What does that look like? And I want you to really, really think through it. If I could just generate blank, we'd drive the change we want. If I generated blank, we'd finally be okay. And if I could just get blank, we'd be in a great position. If I could just get those donors, if I could just get that system, if I could just get what, we'd be in a great position. Because what we've learned and what I've actually learned from Dan is that, look, most organizations don't have a fundraising problem. They have a predictability problem. They have a leadership problem. They have a systems problem. And we're going to stop that today. We're going to stop that today. I got like lights flickering over here. It's going crazy over here. We're going to stop that today. And we're going to do one more. We're going to go dive deeper one more time. And then we're going to get into today's conversation. Let's get to it. So this is the part that nobody talks about. And this is continuing to build on that last slide. Revenue, like real revenue, doesn't fix chaos. It exposes it. I'm going to ask you all a question. If I gave you a gift of $40,000, $50,000 right now, what would you do with it? If I generated $100,000, I would need what in place to run effectively? If you got that grant for $1 million, if you got that $500,000 gift, If you got that $250,000 pitch competition reward, if you got it, what would you need in order to manage it? In order to actually let it flow at a high level, what would you need? What would you need? What would you need? And Dan is on here, and he's gonna kill it. He's gonna kill it, because without systems, more money usually creates a lot of things. It creates more pressure. It creates more expectations. It creates more complexity and more breakdowns. So if you generated that number from last slide, if you generated it, what would you need? And I want you to put it in the comment section. I want you to put it in the comment section, because again, the transformation that you all came on here for requires your participation. The transformation that your donors desire and deserve require you participating in relationship building. So we're developing a relationship virtually, but we're giving this to you all, and I need you to give us some responses back. So if you generated what? If you generated that number, what is one thing that you would need? And put it in the comment section below. What is one thing that you'll need? And you put it in the comment section below. What is one thing that you'll need? And put it in the comment section below. And then we're going to transition. We're going to transition into the three systems of clarity, of proof, and of partnership. Dan, how you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling good this morning. It's a beautiful day here.
Me too, man.
Let's go.
Me too. I opened you up, man. I told them how much I love you, man, how much you're amazing. So, you just missed it.
Building me up.
All right, here we go. All right. So when you think about predictable revenue, Dan, I'd love for you to talk from your perspective, just on this slide, what you see and what you hear, because we have a lot of conversations about predictability, predicting revenue, and how champions multiply by average gift, multiply by retention. But I'd love to just hear your perspective on this as we're talking to people as well.
Yeah. So, the first thing I want to talk about is champions. I think there were a lot of champions for a lot of different nonprofits. And I think a lot of them have their champions, but I don't think people know what to do with them. They just look at them as donors, right? And whenever I look at donors and we're looking at individual giving, champions could be someone who gives time, talent, and treasure. Someone could be given their treasure right now. They may want to give their talent. And if you allowed them to give their talent, then that treasure may increase. You also may have people who want to give their time but haven't given their treasure yet. And those people need to give their time to really feel like they are connected in terms of getting that treasure and giving that treasure to make an impact. And the reason I mentioned that with champions is because if you want to look at that average gift, you've got to have that base of champions. And you need to set that standard for what is that average gift. And that average gift needs to relate to your mission and the populations that you serve and the impact you want to make. And you have to set that up. And that goes into that storytelling in these three areas we're going to talk about. And then retention is the toughest issue that a lot of nonprofits have. But I think retention is the most exciting thing. It does not take a lot to retain people. It does not take a lot. But to retain people and build that retention, you need to humanize the work you do. And to humanize the work that you do, you need to look back at that average gift. And that average gift needs to be connected to impact. And then for that average gift to go up and to be consistent, you got to create those champions with time, talent, and treasure. And that all connects to that pipeline, the touch points, and the asks.
I love it. And as you're thinking about that, let's get to it. When you think of the four phases, there's four phases in this journey of moving strangers to champions, moving from mission to money. The four phases, and we're going to talk through them, are prepare, prove, partner, and propel. Prepare, prove, partner, and propel. And we talked about the four phases, and we're going to talk about them and bleed them into the conversation. But what we're talking about today is the three systems: clarity, proof, and partnership. And as we think about these three systems, phase one, prepare, that's our clarity system. It's going to help us be able to clarify our problem, our process, our person, and what we need to be able to establish. And then in phase 2, this is our proof system. Just like Anthony talked about, those undocumented results, this is where we have to actually, in fact, prove that, look, I am worthy of this gift. I'm actually doing the things that I am communicating that I'm doing. And we're going to talk to you about what are the things that you actually need to prove. What does proof look like? And then phase 3 combines phase 4, and that's all about our partnership. Because once we are clear, once we have proof, now similar to what Dan said, look, it's easy to retain people, but if we don't have a system and if we don't have a way to be able to document, clarify, and communicate those results, then it's going to be challenging for us to be able to ensure that we are moving with momentum. Now, when we think about momentum, it isn't lucky. It is not lucky. It is designed. So when we think about this first clarity system of prepare, it's broken down into 3 things. Our story needs to ensure that that's prepared and optimized. Our strategies, we need to ensure that those are prepared and optimized. And our systems need to ensure that they are optimized and fully prepared.
Hey, Kyle, I want to say something really quickly about Anthony's comment, and I know you just mentioned it too. Anthony, I think you'll find this really effective. One of the biggest things I see is when people make that comment about needing staff and a team to run effectively, that is a really important comment. But sometimes people find, especially through these 3 phases, that yes, you need more people, but sometimes you're trying to do too much with too little. And you're not focusing on the right areas that'll bring you the most return for the small group or as an individual for you yourself. So I hope that this story strategy and the system specifically, we can help you say, okay, if I don't have the staff or team to run effectively, how can I run it effectively by myself or with myself and one other person? And we're going to get into that. So thanks for that comment.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Appreciate you, Dan. Now, when we think about preparing your story, the story starts first. And we see this, and me and Dan have been on calls where we're talking to executive directors and founders, and they don't know the problem that they solve. They don't know the person that is most negatively impacted by that problem's existence. And I shared a little bit earlier that, both me and Dan are educators. Our goal is to be able to not just talk to you or talk at you, but walk you through a journey where you actually have a game plan on how you move forward. So what I want us to do is this is going to be very actionable for you all throughout this whole conversation. Number 1, we want you to clarify the problem that you solve. And what that looks like is, what is the actual specific problem that you solve? And here's a way to think about it. Who gets fired if that problem doesn't get solved? Like, who gets fired if that problem does not get solved? And as you think about that problem, we move to the right. We move right here. I want you to define the specific person that your organization serves. Like, who is most negatively impacted by this problem's existence? Who is most negatively impacted by this problem's existence? And then from this perspective, now we got to get into articulating how you transform that specific audience. What actions do you take to change the life of that person? So if I am an organization that the problem that I solve is this, then I have to actually think about, well, who's most impacted negatively by that? And what are the steps? What is the framework that I use to be able to get that person from where they are now to where we are how we're improving our transformation? And then number 4 is we want to be able to build our connection story. This is my favorite. What story can you tell that directly connects that person you're serving? For me, I had a nonprofit organization. My first start in nonprofits when I was in college. I was a junior, and it was called Project Shine. It stood for Serve, Hope, Serve, Hope, Inspire, Network, and Empower. And the goal was to be able to expose students to career opportunities that help them navigate high school as well as college, as well as post-college. My life was transformed when I went to college as a first college. I was a first generation college student. I really connected with other first generation college students that didn't have parents that could help them really navigate or how to find internships or how to set goals or how to network and how to do all of these different things. That was my connection story. And I saw how it led me to getting jobs and all of these different opportunities that separated me from other students. And I wanted to be able to do that for them as well. What is the story? What this is really the hero story. This is the why behind the brand. A lot of times we don't, yeah, it may sound cute that you want to do it, but it's the emotion, it's the purpose, it's the why that truly draws people in. And then I want you to identify your platform and your stage to share this message. Like, what are your platforms that you'll be able to actually share the actions that you're taking? Is it social media? Is it Substack? Is it Medium? Is it local news? Is it certain news or articles? Like, what are the ways that you're actually sharing and amplifying this message? Dan, when you hear about this kind of stage, what do you hear? What do you see?
There's a few things, and the first thing that comes to mind is overcomplication. People overcomplicate what's going on, what problems they need to solve, and their solutions. And we know now in the age of technology that people's attention spans drop, and they also need things to be concise and direct. And that's something that I really find first is when you're building all this out, you've got to simplify what you're doing. It has to be easy for people to understand what problem you're solving, what solutions you're providing, and how you're doing that.
When you see Anthony's comment, that's what I'm working through now. The demand is growing faster than anticipated. What are some things that potentially he could be doing on the front end so that he can ensure that he's managing that demand while ensuring that his organization is still stabilized?
The first thing that comes to mind for Anthony specifically, I was at a conversation recently with a friend this morning, and we were talking about he's doing the same thing. He has demand, and he's continuing to build that demand because you need to be able to have that demand and people interested before you can continue to grow. But while you're in the stage that you're in on this small team or by yourself, the immediate thing for me is quality over quantity. If you start to grow too fast and you're looking at that quantity, what's really going to happen is you're going to underperform and underdeliver because you're looking at quantity. How do I get people in? How do I, for nonprofits, how do I get them to give me money? How do we continue supporting this? But if you can't provide the impact, if you can't give them the tax receipts they need, if you can't share with them a thank you letter, handwritten or not, you're going to start losing more people than if you provided the quality of the work that you're doing. So that's the first thing I'm always looking at. When you're working through this now, this is the opportunity where you say, I'm going to provide the quality that I can, which in turn is going to create a little bit of exclusivity. People are going to be like, man, that's a really special nonprofit. They're doing great things. They're obviously still small, and they're always going to be growing pains in anything that you do. But I look at the philosophy of unreasonable hospitality. That's one of my favorite things. And I really brought that into my work this past year. In an unreasonable hospitality, you're giving people such an experience that they won't forget. And you need to make sure you do that because we talked about earlier, right? Champions. You want to create champions. You need to go in with that mindset. And there's obviously going to be that voice in the back of your head that's always going to say, well, I'm losing out on this opportunity. I'm losing on this. I'm losing on that. But if you continue to make your focus not on what you're missing, but what you have and how to continue improving that experience and how to continue creating champions, I promise you that follow through as you slowly grow the right way is going to benefit you. It's just like what you see in startups where they grow too fast. They don't have the systems in place, right? They don't have any of these things, and then they falter, and it's a big falter. So focus on what you've got, focus on the experience of those donors, those consumers. That's really what you need to be focusing on right now, giving them that unreasonable hospitality experience.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now let's take some action. Let's take some action. So as we think about preparing your story, this is what it looks like. Okay. This is what it looks like. The first step for you is the problem we solve better than anyone else. Fill it in the blank. The problem that we solve better than anyone else. Fill in the blank. Second step, the individual or organization who cares most about this problem is blank. The individual or organization who cares most about this problem is blank. Here's a quick hack. The second step is probably your ideal donor. The second person is probably an opportunity for you to build a pipeline in that area. Okay. Third step, because of our work, people move from here to here. Here's another hack. That's your transformation. That's what articulating your transformation looks like. In these just 3 steps, the problem that I solve as an organization, the problem that our organization solves is this. For this person, because our work, we move people from here to here. And now we're going to align our message. We as an organization help this population of people solve this specific problem, get it from above, so that they can do what? Become what? Go where? Where are you taking your people? If we cannot clearly articulate our message and our transformation, it's going to be challenging for us to be able to get the opportunities and the resources and the people that we need to be able to scale up our mission that will be able to lead us to generating income for our organizations. All right. Now, once we've prepared our story, now it's time for us to prepare our strategy. Now, what this looks like is we have to build a board, we have to build a pipeline, and we have to build a case for support. In my opinion, and I'm sure Dan will have his own as well, I believe that your board is probably the most critical aspect of your organization. The team, the people around your organization is your engine. They are. You need people with skills. You need people with credibility. You need people with influence, not just people that are close to you. You want to ensure that you're hiring people based upon performance, not just productivity or proximity, And then we want to be able to build a pipeline. When you think about what you're doing as an organization, we must develop and build a steady flow of individuals, companies, and potential partners. It has to happen. I don't care if you're in small business, large scale business, corporation, organization, it doesn't matter. We have to be able to have a steady flow of clients, of individuals, of companies and partners that we're constantly building this relationship for and with. And then number 3, when we're building that strategy, is you have to answer this clearly. How much money do we need and why? It's as simple as that. A lot of times organizations will throw out these arbitrage numbers. You know, everyone wants a 6-figure investment, or I want $1 million. Everyone wants that. But the reality of it is, if you got it, what would you actually do with it? Like, what is the return, what I like to call the return on impact? What is, like, if I gave you this money, are you actually optimized as an organization to be able to utilize it in a way that is fiscally responsible? And then I want you to think about a tougher question. If you were that donor, would you actually give to your organization? Like, would you give to you based upon your habits, based upon your paperwork, based upon your flow, your team, your board, your programming, your results, your data, your consistency, your mindset, all of these different things? Would you give to you? Now let's take action. Let's take action. We have askers, we have door openers, we have pathway creators, we have pitchers. When we think about building our team, building people around us, Dan, I'd love to hear your perspective on who are the key players that you've seen in organizations outside of just askers, door openers, pathway creators, and pitchers that are game changers that are necessary for organizations driving change.
I just wrote a LinkedIn post about this, Kyle. Culture carriers. Those are people that people miss out on. The the post that I wrote about and what I've been reading about was culture carriers are those people in your organization that when they're in the community, when they're meeting people, those are the people that you are or should be empowering to connect and find these people who want to support your organization. These are the people that carry the culture that you are slash the culture that you want to be when you're in the community, when you're going to events, when you're around the pitchers, the askers, the door openers, and the pathway creators. These are your go-to people. You want to recognize these culture carriers as the people that when someone thinks of your organization, they think of Tammy. They think of Tammy who is at these events, who has great rapport, who's an active listener, who knows everything about that organization, but is also humble enough to ask questions and be interested in all of these other people that surround you in surrounding ecosystems or with similar nonprofits. That culture carrier, that's one of the people miss. They're always looking externally. But if you want to present yourself the best that you can externally, you have to be looking internally to figure out who are those people that can do that for you externally.
Hey Dan, can I just sidestep from the presentation and just ask a question? Like, how do you? One of the questions that I find that somebody actually asked, like, how do you build that team though? Like, how do you find those people? How do you reach out? What are the platforms that you recommend using to be able to ensure that maybe I look around me and I don't have the board, I don't have these types of relationships that align with the organizational goals. How do I go out and build these people?
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. In my most recent role, I had created 2 boards for 2 different events. One of them was previous year was the largest event that we had ever done in terms of revenue and size. And in that first year, it was just building, just trying to get through things. And in the second year, I had met enough people, received enough recommendations, and been given enough referrals that I built out his team to a specific purpose, right? You talk about the askers, the pitchers, the door openers, and the pathway creators. The best thing that I always did with this was we talked about it in an earlier slide. You kind of talked about how to build the right team, what to look for. And I talked about time, talent, treasure. I was always trying to look at people who had one or the other or all of those pieces to really help be an incredible advocate. And long story long, what I did is I looked internally and said, what do I need to make this event successful? To make this committee for this event successful? And in relation, it could be a board too. And I realized if I wanted this to be successful, I wanted someone that understood politics, someone that could either coach people on the board, on the committee, or me on how to approach relationships and have those connections. I wanted someone that was very intelligent, whose job was in business development, that understood how to make relationships, and had shown me over the period of time they were willing to introduce me to other people because they trusted me and they understood that I was authentic and they didn't have to worry about introducing me to others. I had people internally who were already part of our organization as donors, or maybe had been on boards or were currently on boards and had these skills where they were incredible advocates and door openers for us. So what I did is I internally first said, what do I need to be successful for this event? Like, what does this event need as we build this out, or this board per se? And then I went and I said, okay, who have I met that I've had a great rapport with? It doesn't need to be crazy. It doesn't need to be looking at, oh, I need this person deep in politics, or I need this CEO of this company. No, you need people that fit the roles you're looking for. You need askers. You need people who aren't afraid to make connections and open doors, but also aren't afraid to work with you on strategy to be able to ask for what's really needed to find success. You need people who are willing and bought into your mission, your organization, the populations that you're looking to impact. You need someone who can pitch all of that and feel good about that, and maybe has a network or has someone else they're willing to engage in this to open up their network. And then you need these pathway creators, and I met a few really great people like that in my previous role, who would say, let's go out to lunch together. Let's talk about this. Let me introduce you to this person. Those pathway creators, to me, those are kind of the generalists, right? You have the pitchers can talk about it. The askers can ask. The door openers can open a door. But those pathway creators, to me, those are the generalists. They can do everything. And you need to have those people. And the common theme between all of them are they understand it, they're bought into it, and they trust you. And those are things you need to look at.
Let's go. One of the pieces that I just want to second that you said that I love is identify the gaps and fill those gaps based with people. A lot of times we don't even know, and we're not reflective enough in those gaps that we have as an organization. So we're choosing people that cannot fill gaps and allow our organization to be able to move forward. Now, when you think about moving forward, we have to prepare a system. We showed you the donor journey a little bit earlier in the presentation. But when I think about the system, there's 5 stages. There's awareness, there's engagement, there's agreement, there's fulfillment, and there's advancement. That's it. Number 1, how am I getting my customer aware that I exist? How am I getting my donor aware that I exist? Engagement. How do people engage with me? Are they booking calls? Are we bringing them on our podcast? Are we inviting them to our event? Dan had a great idea a few weeks ago where he was like, hey, we should do a pickleball tournament and invite nonprofits. And then we can get all of these nonprofits to compete against each other. And then we'll give $1,000 to the nonprofit as a gift who wins. And then that allows us to build what? Engagement in community. Number 3, agreement. What do I need to ensure a positive donor experience? See, a lot of times we want more donors, but our retention is low. So what can we do to be able to create an amazing customer experience? I want you to think about that time that you went to that resort. I want you to think about that time that you went on that cruise. I want you to think about that time that you went to Disney or that amusement park. And it was like you were a family member. They knew your name. They grabbed your bags. They took care of you. Are you doing the same with your donor? Because I'll tell you now, there's a complete difference at staying at the Fairfield Marriott versus the Omni. There's a complete difference than staying at the Westin than somewhere else. Now, no shade to other hotels, but you want to ensure that if you're creating a unique selling proposition as an organization, there's a lot of competition out there. What are you doing that will separate you from the other nonprofits and all of the noise that it's out there? And then fulfillment. What does client transformation look like? What does my organizational transformation look like? And then advancement. What does the process and journey look like beyond the first gift? And we're going to talk about beyond what happens to advance these donors after they give their time, their talent, their treasure. That first time, what does that look like moving forward and beyond? Kind of like Buzz Lightyear. All right, here we go. Now, when we look at an example of what a system looks like, now this is a real-time example. Awareness could look like, all right, well, I am creating awareness on LinkedIn for my audience. Engagement looks like I created a post that said, here are the 3 emails every nonprofit should send before December 31st. As you see, 133 comments, 27 reposts, 200 engagements, all of these different things happen. Now, they had to comment the word email in the comment section below, and then we sent them to what we call a landing page that then brought them to a funnel. So now they had to agree. They had to give their first name, last name, email, and then it moved them to a funnel that had an automated email sequence that then built them. And some of them have showed up for this call. Some of them are in our Growth Lab community. Some of them are in our Growth Alliance community. That's how we ensure that we are having our touch points. We're continuing to build relationship. We're creating engaging content. We're sharing our message, and we're clear on where our audience is. So what is your system that you are using to capture, engage, follow up, and close? Now, when we think of phase 1, it was all about preparing. That's our clarity system. Now we should be clear in what we're doing, our problem, our process, our transformation, our person, and how to articulate our story in a way. Clarity, yes, earns attention. But like we talked about earlier, proof, it earns that belief. Proof, you have enough proof in today's time, it'll probably lead to you getting a lot of gifts. What proving looks like in phase 2, and this is our proof system, it looks like highlighting one win. Like, what is one win that you have had within your organization within the last 30 days? Choose a simple result that shows your work is helping someone. One win for us as an organization in the Culture Lab, we have this webinar happening right now. And we have people that have been on here since the beginning right now. So what we could do as an organization, we could write this up as a newsletter and we can send it off. Hey, did you guys know that last week we had a webinar on how to move from mission to money, and we had these people on and we answered these questions, and here's 2 or 3 of the questions that we received. Boom. Now we're proving to people that we're doing this work. Number 2, capture the before and after. Think about it. Describe one person, family, or student's life changed because of you. I could guarantee that Anthony, he's been really engaged in the comment section. He has learned something that he didn't know before, and he got some type of process or system or something that maybe after he'll be able to take and implement. So what I would love to do is get Anthony's information, do a one-on-one with him, me, Dan, and Anthony. We break it down, we strategize, and now after that call, we share the results. Boom. That is a way to capture the before and after of the person that you are serving. Number 3 is save evidence of that win. Keep a quote, a photo, a number, or an update that shows that change is real. What we could do right now is do a little screenshot. Me and Dan could go like this, and then we could take a picture. We could post that tomorrow and say, hey, did you see that we were on live yesterday on multiple platforms sharing the 3 systems that have helped organizations that we've worked with make millions of dollars? Check it out. Here's the link. Or share it with your community. Make the win visible online, in a newsletter, or with your board. How are we communicating that proof? So look, we may have undocumented results, but are we spending enough time during the week actually thinking about, just thinking about the wins that we have, just thinking about the before and after, just thinking about the evidence of that win? On Wednesdays from 4 to 6 o'clock, I have a proof block on my calendar. Nothing can be booked, nothing can be scheduled, and all I'm doing is tracking all of the wins, all of the learning lessons, all of the different testimonials. So it gives me content for that following week to be able to post so that I can actually showcase what we're doing as an organization to drive leads. Now, you know it's action time, y'all. It's action time. Let's take some action. Let's have some fun. What I want you to do on the front end is we want you to qualify your results, like qualify them. Anthony, this is your time to start documenting some results. So this may be a good exercise. You're on here already. Let's document them. Write down one measurable outcome from the last 12 months. And here's some examples for you. 85% of students improved attendance. That's an example. 62% of young women improved in their confidence. Okay, that's an example. We helped house 12 unhoused neighbors in homes. Okay, we helped 10 single moms get the first down payment for their new home. That's a measurable result. Now, what I want us to do, anybody listening in, I want you to comment your measurable result. I want you to comment your measurable result. What is it? Just real quick. Let's just put it in the comment section. What is one thing that you've done over the last 12 months that is either A, worthy of sharing, and I feel like everything is worthy of sharing, or B, just so that you can get it out into the atmosphere, that you can just showcase to other people here that, hey, I'm doing this work. Number 2 is I want you to show outcomes. I want you to write one sentence beginning with, because of our work, people now blank. What I will say is, because of our work here at the Culture Lab with me and Dan, people have an honest, repeatable fundraising system that is working. They do. We had a client that we talked to last Friday. Shout out to Marisha Franklin. She's based in Kansas City. She texts me about an hour after that call, and just a 30-minute call with me and Dan, I think she cleared $2,000 that night. That night. Just a quick strategy. What could you do with an additional $2,000 today? Now, I think a lot of times we're looking at the 20,000, 40,000, 50,000, but maybe our organization isn't optimized for that just yet. Maybe we have to understand how to optimize that 2,000. And maybe, what if I could help you raise $2,000 on a weekly basis? That's potentially $8,000 a month, which allows you to set up for a $100,000 system in a given year. Number 3, we got to capture transformation. Choose one person, one family, one student or stakeholder, and write a quick before and after story, 2 to 3 lines. 2 to 3 lines, just really quickly. And then I want you to make it visible. I want you to make it visible. Choose one of these items that you wrote, and I want you to post it online. Now, you could first start by posting it here. Text it to a colleague, text it to a board member, text it and comment it to us within 24 seconds, because it shouldn't take that much time. So just to recap, I want you to write down one measurable outcome from the last 12 months. I want you to show outcomes. Write one sentence beginning with, because of our work, people now blank. I want you to capture that transformation. Choose one person, family, student, or stakeholder that you've been engaging with and write a quick before and after. And then I want you to make it visible. Who's bold enough? Who's courageous enough to post it right now in there in the comment section? What is a transformation that you've achieved? What is a measurable outcome that you've had in your organization for someone else? Now, you may be taking notes, you may still be writing it down, but as you're thinking and as you're reflecting on it, this is where it begins. Imagine if you took time every week. Imagine if you had a coach or a program or an accountability partner that could help you identify how to best optimize your outcomes, how to better systematize your outcomes and your results, how to capture the transformation. Let's read this one. My challenge is that my results come from previous various lines of work, and now I'm trying to consolidate and synthesize them. There isn't proven results from my nonprofit per se. However, my track record of impact has led me to this phase to lead this nonprofit. Dan, I know you got something for that one.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm all about translatable and transferable skills. And I think that there's so much value in that. So to hear your challenge comes from the other work that you've done. I mean, that's such a common problem, Anthony, is that there's, especially in the nonprofit world, there's so many things going on around us, and you don't know where to turn your attention. And I love that we're in the let's take action section, because that's literally what we're going to do, is we're going to help direct you a little bit better. Because to your point, how do you take all of these streams, these ideas, these things that need to be accomplished, and synthesize them to help you figure out, okay, where do I go here? What's my first step? What's my second step, third step, fourth step? And Kyle and I talked about this actually with Myrisha on our call. You had mentioned there isn't proven results. When I think about all this stuff, I think to myself, there's no difference between someone who wants to start a nonprofit, believes there's a problem and wants to solve it, and spends all this time building it. There's no difference between that person and the person who says, okay, there's a problem. I got to figure out how to accomplish this. How do I solve this problem? Right? One person takes forever, and they may or may not ever get to actually solving the problem because they get analysis paralysis, versus the person that says, I'm just going to do it. And there's a lot of common themes between entrepreneurship and nonprofit work. And in nonprofit work, sometimes you, just like entrepreneurship, you have to pinpoint something, you got to jump in and just tackle it. And you just got to start with it, because there's so much analysis paralysis around it. So to your point of your track record of impact has led you to this phase to lead this nonprofit, you're telling us that you know how to do this. You have the tools to do this. You know what decision needs to be made, but you're looking at the scenario and saying, this nonprofit is way different than what I've ever done. And you're analyzing everything, but you're not acting. So we're going to get into this, but you need to take a step back and you need to say, what have I done that's led me to success in the past? What's the first and the second thing I've ever done? And you need to translate to this nonprofit and do the same thing. Because we talk about this in higher ed a lot lately. Higher ed and nonprofits, they're not businesses, but sometimes they need to work on the back end. And I see that you noted this. In the name of the nonprofit, yeah, I got you. I think this is still going to connect to that, Anthony. The fact of we're going to help guide you on what to start first, where to go, and you need to use that gut and instinct to do that same thing. There is almost no difference between these things. It's just the people that you're impacting and the mission that you have.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Anthony, evidence builds trust, but relationships move resources, right? So the first stage in system was our clarity system. The second stage in system was our proof system. And to expand on that last comment that we've gotten is, I may not be articulating this the best. I've proven results from my prior experiences, just not in the name of the nonprofit yet. That is the proof, though. You share that experience. Let's say you helped volunteer at an organization and helped them do X. This is what led me to start this nonprofit because we want to duplicate this same type of experience. Well, I have 10 years of doing this in this field. I'm going to take all of this knowledge to be able to produce it for these individuals. So you're still able to communicate the transformation because you're building that brand identity through you. And now once you transfer it over, like Dan said, to the nonprofit, now you're also now building a brand identity for the organization that you're building. You merge those two together. You leverage your professional and personal experience to build that brand, to mobilize those resources, and then use them for the nonprofit organization to be able to grow it as well. Let's talk about how we can ensure that relationships allow us to move the resources forward. Let's go. So when we think about phase 3, and now we're in the third system, y'all. We're in the third system of partnership system. We've talked about that clarity system. We've talked about that proof system. Now we're going into that third system of partnership system. Let's talk about partner, though. What I believe, and I've learned this from Dan, is there's 3 major stages when we're developing partnerships with people. And interestingly, I see this as like the dating experiences too. First, we invite someone to coffee or to dinner or to lunch, right? We welcome them into meeting or an event or a virtual experience that introduces them to who we are and our mission. Then number 2, we immerse them into something. We engage in some type of hands-on impact through projects, through volunteering, through storytelling, through some form of engagement or immersion. Then number 3, we innovate. How can we collaborate on a mission-driven idea or initiative that creates shared value? Now, when I see this, me and Dan, I invited him to have a conversation. This is how we met. We invited to have a conversation, all things fundraising, all things philanthropic giving, all of these different things. He worked with me on some projects that I was working with, some conversations with the university that I was having. And then we immersed. We got on a podcast, and not just one podcast, multiple podcast episodes. And then through there, we were like, oh, man, there's so much synergy. There's so much alignment. There's alignment in values and work and impact that we want to be able to create. So then we worked together to be able to develop the Growth Alliance. And we innovated. We collaborated on a mission-driven idea or initiative that is going to create shared value. In the same way that we identify and build business partnerships and alliances and relationships, whether personally or professionally, is the same thing that we can do to be able to develop these type of partnerships as an organization with the donor relationships as well. So y'all ready to take some action? Who's ready to take some action? Let's take some action. All right. And this is the educator in me, because when you're engaging in a classroom setting, when you're engaging with students, and I look at everybody that's engaging with us today as a student, I want to not just force feed you all of this information overload. I want you to actually take the time to engage in the comments, ask those questions, and be able to implement the steps that we're providing you all today. All right, so let's take some action. So what does this look like? Who is impacted by the problem that your organization is solving? I want you to list companies. I want you to list leaders. I want you to list organizations or communities who feel the pain your mission is solving. Who are those people? Then who is connected to the solution? I want you to list people, companies whose work aligns with your outcomes or complements what you already do or are trying to do in the future. Then number 3, who already knows you exist? This is what I call that affinity circle. I learned this from my girl, Rachel Simon. She is amazing at Florida State University. Write down individuals, companies, or influencers who are aware of your organization or your work. Now, when we think about that infinity circle, if you draw a dot in the middle of your paper where you're taking notes, and you draw a circle and a circle, the people closer to the dot are closer to your mission, closer to you. They're aware, they're more aware. As you get further out of the circle, the outer realms, those are people that you probably have to have more conversations with and do a little bit more deep diving with. And then number 4 question, who has been impacted by your transformation? I want you to name those people who have been seen, felt, or benefited from the change that you create. What I will say, all these people are your people. All of these people that you wrote down in every single box are your people. Those organizations, who can I get in contact with? Because those are probably my people. The people that you're connected to the solution, those are my people. The people that already know you, those are my people. The people that you've transformed, those are my people. So if we just go back to those people, Dan, how do we do it? Like, how do we take all of these people that we just wrote down and all of these lists and actually activate them and potentially build partnerships?
I think the first thing, and this isn't something you mentioned, and I don't think it's something a lot of people think about, but it's something that I really rely on. Data. That's the first thing. When you have a conversation with someone, you need to take notes. You need to reflect. You need to debrief afterwards, because if you are really going to be invested in a relationship or in data collection with these people, whether you'd mentioned influencers, people aware of your companies in general, aware of your organization, you need to understand previous conversations, current conversations, and what future conversations you want to have with them, because that's what's going to direct you when you're building this out. I think for me, the second piece is you have that data, then you need to really start planning for each person. We talked about that unreasonable hospitality. You know what I hate? Is I hate getting emails that don't even have my name on it, that just say donor, or are totally ambiguous or totally just general, right? Give me something in there. And that ties into what I just mentioned, because when you're creating out this, whether it's an outreach plan for individuals, whether it is grouping or segmenting people together for areas of interest, you have to have direction with everyone. And it has to be, here's one of my favorite words, it has to be intentional. If you want to be a successful nonprofit, if you want to be a successful leader, everything that you do needs to be made with intention. Whether it's a simple email, when I was early in my career, were my text messages as intentional as they probably should have been? Probably not. Are they now? Certainly. Are my LinkedIn messages intentional? Yes. Are the subject lines on my LinkedIn messages, my emails intentional? Yes. I reached out. I did a bunch of cold outreaches yesterday, and I reached out to someone in a different country. And I realized before I sent it, I said, okay, well, they're an MD. I said, it's much better for me to reach out to them and say Dr. So-and-so versus their first name, and them think that I'm not serious, because it's a lot easier for them to correct it and laugh to themselves and say, oh, you can just call me Dan, versus why did you call me about my first name? This is a cold outreach and this is professional. Everything that needs to be done with these people who know you, that know you exist, that people you want to connect with or you're connected with, or people you want to help you transform your work and your organization, it all goes back to everything that you do needs to be intentional. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds beyond that, Kyle, but intentionality, just like everything we do, right? Everything. When we talked about setting this up yesterday, we talked about how do we be intentional? What are we doing with this? What's the purpose of this?
Right.
What's the outreach? Who are we reaching out to? What streaming platform are we putting this on? We were intentional about everything we did. And I think that that's the basis when you're looking at taking action is how do you be the most intentional that you can be?
Dan, you speaking to me, man. And I love the word intentionality because it requires a thoughtfulness as a leader. And anybody listening in, how thoughtful have you been when you're approaching your organization? And the challenge in being thoughtful is it requires us to actually take the time to think. It takes the time to think about not just ourselves and what we want, but the experience that someone else will get. We thought about you all in mind. That's why we developed slides, because we thought about our learners. That's why we wanted to ensure that we had the slides for taking action so that you could be able to take action today. We know you've taken your time. We know you've given your energy. We know you're probably in the midst of different priorities and responsibilities. So we wanted to be intentional with answering your questions and being able to provide an experience that you all remember as well. All right. So we're at phase 4. We're at phase 4, and we understand that relationships create opportunity, but systems create scale. Okay. So phase 4 is propelling. We're still in that third system, though, of partnership. Okay. So our first system was clarity. Our second system was proof. And now we're continuing to build upon that third system, which is partnership. When we look at propel, this is when we are beginning to advance those relationships forward. Now we have relationships, we're engaging, they're engaging, we're connected, we're building. How can we take this forward, though? Maybe I've given a small gift. Maybe I've given a few hours of time. How can I move relationships forward? And there's 3 stages that we have defined here at the Culture Lab that we feel are most effective. Number 1 is we have to systemize those touch points. We have to maintain rhythm through intentional relationship communication. I know that me and Dan meet every Friday at 2:00, period. It's on the calendar. It's booked out. There's too much technology these days for your donors not to have a customized rhythm and communication channel. There's too many CRM platforms. There's too many technologies or AI platforms out there that you can leverage that will allow you to be able to have and maintain these rhythms through intentional relationship communication. Number 2, we have to make strategic asks. One of the challenges that I see with nonprofit founders, especially nonprofit founders that are under 500,000 in operating budget or just fiscal budget, is they're not making strategic or intentional asks. I want you to invite aligned partners into meaningful investment. Like, what does that look like? What will it look like actually someone giving to you? And then we want to be able to expand the overall lifetime value of our donors beyond one-time commitments. We want to continue to grow relationships with our individuals. Now, you know the next slide. If you've been here with us for the hour and some change that we've been on the webinar, again, we want to be able to get into our 7-day implementation plan. We want to be able to take some action. Okay. We want to be able to take some action. And before we bring our next question up that just came in, we want to walk you through, Dan, and I'd love for you to kind of walk them through what this would look like from a 7-day implementation. They have a donor, they have someone that they've been engaging with. What will this look like from identifying the champion, establishing a timeline, defining the request, clarifying the impact, and setting the next step? One of the things that we talked about and why we are so intentional is that in our description of this webinar, we wanted you to leave with a 7-day plan, some type of information that you can take that you could be able to implement moving forward. Dan, what are your thoughts?
I want to walk through this on a very simplistic level here, just to give people an idea. We talk about identifying the champion, and we talked about earlier with Anthony. Sometimes we're looking too far out. We're not looking at what we already have, right? And I want to say, identify the champion. Sometimes you have people internally internally, as in current donors, who are already your champion, but you're missing out on them. You're looking at people who are given $1,000 gifts, 5,000, 10,000, whatever that may be. But you might have a champion given 250, and you're not thinking about that person because you're just looking at the money. Versus that person may be able to open doors. That person may have a lot of time to be able to help us, which in turn, if they're working with us, that's going to build that investment with them. First thing is, I want to look at the people you already have, right? We talk about retention. There's the connection there with retention. So look at identifying the people that are already donors to you, that have continued to do it. Usually I look at people who are 5 to 7 years, who have continued to give that gift. Doesn't have to be a huge gift, but at least 5 to 7 years in a row. Those are some of your champions. Reach out to one of those champions. Next, you need to reach out and connect with them. You need to find a time to talk. One of the best things you can do, and this is why I consider myself an executive thought partner, is once you've established that person and you identify that champion, find time to talk with them. Spend time with them. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. Spend time checking in with them. What's going on in their life? What are they supporting? What's important to them right now? What does their world look like? Invest intentional time in them. Once you've done that, you're going to start to get answers to some questions you didn't know that you needed and that you had. Then you're going to go to define the request. This may not be directly after that, but you're going to be able to use that thoughtful and intentional conversation to define that request, because you're going to be collecting data and information that's going to benefit you and benefit them, because your goal is to help them fulfill something that's on their mind, some cause that's important to them. You're going to be able to define that request internally with you to figure out, what do they want to support? What are they connected to? What's important to them right now? Have they told me, oh, I have a tax bill coming up. I just got a new job. I'm working on my will right now. This, that, or the other. And then from there, you're going to go to clarifying that impact, because once you define the areas you think you want to be in, then you can have that second meeting with them. You could say, hey, you know what? We had that last conversation. You mentioned this specifically, which shows your active listening and your intentional kind of listening and focus on them in a conversation. You're going to say, you know what? I just want to clarify. You mentioned this. Is that really important to you? Do you know we're doing something like that in our work right now that you might love to hear about? Something in the 5 areas that you want to support? Well, let's have another conversation about that. Let's clarify the impact that we're making here that you might want to be a part of. I really think that you might get a lot of fulfillment from this. Then you're going to set those next steps. You're going to let that simmer. You're going to let that sit on the oven and let them warm up to that. You're going to put the ball in their court, and you're going to give them a little bit of time, but you're going to tell them when you finish that clarifying the impact conversation, you're going to say, hey, take some time. There's no pressure. I'm going to follow up with you in 2 weeks. I'm going to check in. Let's get together again. Let's talk. I want to share some things with you. Let's just get together. Because one of the really important things, and we've talked about this in a previous conversation, people give to and they support people that they trust and people they like. And some people are afraid to get vulnerable enough with your donors for them to really understand who you are as a person. So when you're defining that request and you're clarifying that impact, you need to go in there, put the focus and the onus on them. You need to listen. You need to be a good person. You need to be really invested and intentional with the questions and the way that you interact with them. And then you're going to leave that ball in that court. You're going to let it simmer, and you're going to work on, what do those next steps look like? How did they act in that conversation? Did they seem confident? Did they seem warm to it? Did they seem really excited? You're going to go back and you're going to build out what an intentional plan looks like going into those next steps. And those next steps could be 2 weeks when you check in with them, could be a month later. I know that I've had to wait months for them to be ready, but I'm always checking in on them and seeing how they're doing and see if there's any value I can provide to them.
It's time to take action. It's time to take action. You can't hear a description and a breakdown and a map in that way and not be ready to take action. We've been on here an hour and 24 minutes, and you've taken action. We've given you the steps. We've helped you identify those champions, establish timelines, define the request, clarify the impact, and see the next step. Now, we do have a question that came in, Dan. How can a nonprofit leader tell the difference between a fundraising problem that needs more effort versus one that needs a different system?
Yeah, I was really thinking about that, Kiana. And, so urgency is the first word that comes to mind for me. So if there's a fundraising problem that needs more effort, and if you're watching this, I'd love for you to confirm needs more effort internally or externally. AKA, do they need more effort from the people that are in the nonprofit, or do they need more effort and there's more urgency to support the mission of the nonprofit, like a project outside of it? I'd love to hear that. Or is it one that needs a different system? If something, and I'll start with this part because this is to me a pretty straightforward one. If it's something that needs a different system, you're going to see the breakdowns. The breakdowns that you're going to see are people are not feeling the impact. People are not being communicated with, and your internal team does not know, or they don't seem to be guided going to one specific focus. Those are the three things I'm going to look for to see if it's a system problem, because you can put a system in to make sure people receive impact, people receive thank yous, that your team knows what's going on and they're all moving towards the same focus, right? That's a big communication piece for me, whether it's internal or external communication. But a nonprofit leader being able to tell the difference between a fundraising problem that needs more effort, that could be a bunch of different things. That could be you have a lot of demand, similar to what we talked about with Anthony before. There's a lot of demand, but you don't have people to catch up with it, which again could actually go to needing a different system. And I think those are, now that I say that out loud, I think those are one and the same. A fundraising problem that needs more effort may just be something that needs a better system to solve that problem. And, the little piece to that is also, we always want to humanize the work that we do. So if there's a problem that needs more effort, I would immediately go to the people who are doing it and say, what is the problem? Can you tell me why you can't solve this problem? Is it you need more people? Is it there's too much going on? Are you spread too thin? And again, I think that always comes back to what's your system? So I think you kind of answered your own question in there. As I'm reading this to myself and processing it, really the way to solve these problems, whether it's effort or not, is putting in a system to alleviate some of that pressure. Because that system may not be working, and this new system could help alleviate that pressure. And that could help the fact where it seems like there might be more effort that's needed, but that system can solve that for you.
And here's the system. Here's the system. When we talked about throughout this conversation, phase one is building a clarity system. We want to identify our problem, our person, our process, our transformation, and be able to articulate it clearly. Number two, phase two is our proving process, but it's establishing a proof system. How are we communicating to people who we are, why we exist, and the transformation that we are creating? We're sharing those qualifiable results, and then we're sharing those outcomes, and we're showcasing the before and after effectively. And then phase 3 and 4 are all about partnering and propelling. It's about creating and growing a partnership system that allows us to move our donors through a predictable journey. Now, our question for you is, do you want help executing this in 12 weeks? There's been a lot of questions. There's been a lot of comments. There's been a lot of participation, engagement throughout this whole conversation. Our question for you is, do you want help executing this over the next 12 weeks? Because if you do, and this sounds like you, if you're a nonprofit founder and executive director building day to day, if you're a community-based organization, leader doing big work with limited capacity, if you're a senior leader who has inherited a mess and is expected to fix it fast, if you are a first-time leader at this that is trying to scale smart with values driven, and you're self-teaching yourself, or you're a small team or a one-stop shop or one person that's doing all the things, then the Growth Alliance is probably for you. Now, in 12 weeks, we're going to help you build clarity, capacity, confidence, and all that's going to help us lead to building cash, partnerships, relationships, donor pipelines, communicating with value, building trust, protecting your time, and building these systems that you can follow. Now, what this will look like is live coaching, strategy sessions, frameworks, templates, scripts, trackers you can use literally immediately, and weekly execution, commitments, and progress tracking. This room is, yes, a safe space, but it's a room of trust, a room of mission-driven leaders, and a room of real results in real time. And this is what we want to do for you today. We want you to invest. We want you to take action, because you don't need more ideas. You need structure. You need structure that holds in a room that expects execution. And for you today, for tapping in with us, we want to give this to you. Instead of the $3,000 original investment, we want to cut $1,500 for you, because you've given us your time. You've cleared your calendar to be with us today. We want to cut off $1,500. All you have to do is apply. All you have to do is apply. Now, the question is, Kyle, where do I apply? Like, where do I apply, Kyle? I want you to click the link under this. I want you to click the link under this, and it's going to give you the ability to apply right now. And if you don't have that link, then this is what I'll do for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab the link for you, and then I'm going to post it under here on the LinkedIn platform. Now, for all of us that are not using the LinkedIn platform, you're going to have to use the LinkedIn platform, and I'm putting it below on all of the platforms, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, as well as the StreamYard. And you're going to go there and you're going to click the apply button, and everyone who applies today will get $1,500 off of the price point. Now, this is only available for 24 hours, and we're only allowing 2 of these seats to be filled. So if you apply, what's going to happen? You're going to go to this page. You're going to be able to fill out that application. Then one of our team members is going to give you a ring sometime today or tomorrow, and they're going to accept you into the program because you came on today. And if accepted, you'll get immediate access. We'll start building your plan, pipeline, and operating rhythm in week 1. Look, if you're ready to start leading with clarity, I want you to apply today. We want you to apply today. And either or, thank you. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you. And if today brought clarity or momentum, we're going to be sending a free resource that will help you take this first step immediately to your email, as long as you registered for this event. If you're ready to move from insight to execution, we want you to book a call to see how Growth Alliance can help you build the systems, the story, and the strategy to scale your impact. We thank you, everyone, on the YouTube platform, the LinkedIn platform, the Facebook platform, the StreamYard platform, for being with us today. We thank you, we love you, and we look forward to seeing you inside of the Growth Alliance.
Thanks, everybody.